to Girl Take the Lead, the podcast where we explore the real, raw, and remarkable stories of people breaking cycles, finding freedom, and leading with courage. Today's guest is Rita Lussier, a writer and journalist who penned the beloved column For the Moment for the Providence Journal for over a decade. Rita recently published her first book, Now Back to You, a deeply moving reflection on her journey from full time mom to empty nester and the reinvention and rediscovery that followed. In this conversation, we explore what it really means to transition into a new season of life, how grief and joy can coexist, and why reinvesting in ourselves is not selfish, but essential. In today's episode, we talk about why the empty nest is harder and more layered than most of us expect, how symbols like a child's blanket or a favorite snack can trigger waves of memory and loss, practical ways to rewire after years of giving to others, including small acts of self care and self pampering, finding gratitude and bliss in everyday moments, from new windows to old friends, the strength and resilience that comes from embracing change. Rita's story reminds us that we've created before and we can create again, that grief can lead to reinvention, and that joy often lives in the smallest, most ordinary moments. Let's jump in. Here you go. So, Rita, welcome to Girl Take the Lead. And thank you so much for joining us today. This will be a great conversation for us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to talking with you.
Yeah, great. And maybe could you begin things for us by introducing yourself to our audience?
Sure. I'm Rita Lussier, and I'm a writer and a journalist who wrote a column called For the Moment for the Providence Journal for a dozen years. And I recently, just a month ago, published my very first book, and I'm very excited to be here to talk about it with Yolanda.
Yeah, that's great. And that book is Now Back to You, which, it's got such a great title to it. So why
Thank you.
don't you tell us a little bit about that and why you wrote it?
Okay, so this is the story of my transition from full-time, hands-on mom to an empty nester. And I'm just going to tell you, even though I knew this transition was coming, I was not prepared for it. And I'm really grateful as I start talking about this book with people to learn that a lot of women are not at all prepared for it, and men too.
Mm.
So I'm glad I wrote it, and I hope that some of the transitions I went through and wrote about and some of the feelings and thoughts I shared will help other mothers and fathers out there
Mhm.
transition through this time in their lives as well.
Yeah,
Um,
I think as I was reading it, I had the vision that you were speaking to any of us going through any kind of loss or big change like that, that there were certain things about your process that would relate to so many different ways that people experience big change like that.
yeah, well, that's my hope. I
Mhm.
really hope it eases it for a little bit. I know it helps me when I hear different stories of people, and I'm not the only one that has some
Right.
difficulty. So,
What what surprised you the most about your empty nest?
well, besides how difficult I found it to be, what surprised me were all the other things that kind of came at me at the same time. My daughter left home. All of a sudden, I stopped writing the column for the Providence Journal. So I had a new career challenge to figure out. Um, Let's see. My husband and I started out family of 4, then family of 3, and then it was just 2 of us, so that was, let's just say it in a nice way, that was awkward for quite a bit at the time, but we did figure that out, so that's good. Um, my parents were getting older, and all of a sudden, they needed more help, and They had emergencies and things that, I was not expecting. They had always just been my mom and dad taking care of me.
Mhm, mhm.
And then, there were other things like our house needed attention. You start talking about retirement and money things become more, ominous because you're
Yeah,
ending your working years. So it was a lot all at once. Kind of a
yeah,
midlife thing, right?
yeah. Well, I like what you said in your book about mothers. There's a nice passage, I think, um, if you wouldn't mind reading it for us, because I thought it was so touching about how that how that changes.
Yeah, so this passage came about one day when I was having a particularly lost hour or 2. I decided to take a walk down to the seashore and sit on my favorite rock and try to figure things out. And it was not exactly a real sunny day. The wind was blowing, the water was choppy, but I thought, well, that's perfect because that's how I feel. But as I sat there, I happened to have this recollection come flashing back that this was the exact same rock that I had sat on years before when I came down there to make a wish to get pregnant again, to
Uh,
have our second child, and I was hoping she would be a daughter, and she was. And once I realized that, I just felt so comforted, and that's where this passage kind of came out of.
mm,
So we
mm,
mothers have done it before. What begins as a wish, an inner knowing, we transform into a life. We nurture a family, we fashion a home, we come to this spot not knowing until we do know. And then we work with our hands and our hearts and make things happen. We make a place for ourselves and our families. We make home happen. We've done it before, we can do it again.
mm. I think, we talked a little bit about this before. I thought my heart had been pulled out of my chest when I left my daughter, the oldest daughter, at school, which was we live in California and she was going to go to school in Wisconsin.
That's a long
And
way.
and I must have been on automatic pilot. You arrive, you go shopping to Target, you get all the things they need. Um, you go to the room, you meet the roommate, you meet the roommate's parents, and then you start putting things away. And with my daughter, I thought she should hang her robe in the closet, and she wanted it in another place. She wanted it behind her door or something like that. And I felt this tug of war with her. Like it was that transformation of, oh, I don't tell her anymore what to do. She's making her own decisions now. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I could hardly breathe for a moment. I had to go outside, sit down, catch my breath, and realize that moment of grief that you're talking about, that motherhood, that moment of, oh, okay. And they don't get it. The kids don't get it in the moment of what you're going through. And I remember getting kind of mad at her that she didn't realize how hard this was to do. Um, for the first one. The second one, no problem. I didn't have as much of an issue. But the first one, it was like, whoa. I-
Yes.
And, I remember calling my husband and saying, she wanted to put her robe behind the door. I'm not needed. What's happened? And I cried. And I think I must have cried all the way from Chicago to San
Oh,
Francisco on the flight because it was just that emptiness.
yes. I
Yeah.
know we all go through those moments, and they can happen after they
Mhm.
leave too.
Yeah.
So, it's very poignant.
So yours happened though. I mean, you when you were going through your empty nest, talk a little bit about that, like how that hit you.
Well, you're reminding me of my first child. So this is not my nest is not empty yet, but he
Mhm.
took off for Washington, D.C. for his college years. And I guess it was probably a month or so after that, I was in the market shopping as usual. And I just happened to go by the shelf where power bars were. And I realized I don't have to buy any because Jeff is not here. And
Mm.
I just turned into a complete mess right there in the middle of the supermarket.
I can
I
so
left
relate.
the cart abandoned. Went running out, and my husband had driven me, so he was there. And he's like, "What happened? Did somebody got a gun? Is it
Right.
what's going on?" I'm like, "It's the power bars." Like, totally ridiculous, but
It's just but it is something about that motherness, that nurturing we do, and, I came across my youngest daughter's, we called her blanket Fat Pinky because there was a skinny Pinky, but she had a fat Pinky blanket that we called
aw.
Fat Pinky, and, I mean, it's all tattered, she's 28 years old, and I turned into a sobbing mess.
See,
It
I know we're not alone here.
I know we're not, and I know that there are plenty of our listeners going, "Oh, girlfriends, we get it," because those that time went so friggin' fast, and you look back and you go, "Oh my god, fat Pinky, you were loved," you were so loved, just like I love my daughter, and, you know, there you go. I know. I went to my husband, I go, "I found fat Pinky," and all I could do was cry.
I'm gonna remember that, that's
Oh god. And I guess, for you, I know in your book you talk about this being a time to reinvest in yourself. I mean, obviously, the name of your book, but um, what did you find challenging about that, investing back into your own health and well being?
well, just this week, a friend of mine gave me a new term that I'm going to use because I think it's perfect. She said, "We need to rewire." And I said, "What do you mean by that?" And she said, "Because as mothers, we're just hardwired, and then over years of habit of taking care of others. And we have to rewire at least some of that and take care of ourselves a little
Mhm.
bit." And
Mhm.
so one of the things that I did and I wrote about in the book was to find a way to self-pamper myself a little bit. And I chose on one particular Friday to drive 30 miles to a hair salon, my favorite hair salon, just to get a blow dry, which was like totally extravagant. And I kept trying to argue with myself, "No, you can't do that. You can't spend that money. You can't take up that time. You can't drive that far." But I did it, and it was
Yeah.
such a victory because I just had such a fun time. I love the, hairstylist, and we were just chatting and laughing, and it was just what I needed, a little
Mhm.
indulgence at that.
Mm, I love that idea. I don't remember me doing something like that,
You
but it
can
sure
still do it.
yeah, oh, obviously, yeah, but I'm thinking back going, "I wish I had done that." That's really good advice, you guys, listen to that one, like, give yourself a chance to heal and to, pass through some of that grief, and having somebody work on your body and getting massage too, I think would also
Oh,
be
that's a
good.
great idea, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
So what's a section in the book that's your favorite?
Okay, so I've been asked this and I kind of waver back and forth, but I think about it and I remember this freezing January morning after our daughter came home. She was a freshman, but they come home for winter break. And like many freshmen, she was having a lot of doubt and anxiety about college and whether she wanted to go back, or if she did, she'd change her major and all this stuff. So it was not exactly a relaxing time. So I
Mhm.
went out for a very short run in the freezing cold. And when I was coming back, I ran into my neighbor Jackie walking her two yellow labs, and she had this bright pink Parker on in the icy wind. She's got this big smile. And just in that moment, I realized, you know, how this day is going to turn out, Rita, is going to depend on your attitude. Just,
Mm,
and that revelation led to this passage here, which is
right.
find the fun and good and happiness in every moment and embrace it. Forget all the hoping for the ideal situation, all the waiting for the perfect moment, all the searching for the
Mhm.
unobstructed stretch of road ahead. What if it never comes? What if we never find it? What if things get worse? What if these are, like the song says, the good old days? Why not enjoy this time, these moments, this work, these chores, this family, those friends? Why not make the most of the pile of fresh smelling towels that needs to be folded? The disco tune that comes on the radio when we're stuck in traffic, or the banana bread that gets left in the oven a bit too long but tastes pretty good with an extra layer of crust. Well, there it is then, a new life philosophy inspired by my neighbor Jackie out walking her dogs in the frigid morning. I will find my bliss. I'll look for it in my work, in my marriage, in my family, in my friendships, my moments, my days, the quiet, the crowd, my house and all its shortcomings, a talk with a neighbor in an icy driveway, a freshman who came home for the holidays but has to go back, a cup of coffee decked out in a sparkling red sleeve, and the son who was thoughtful enough to give it to me just because. Just
Mm.
because we're here, just because we're alive, just because we can walk and smile and listen and learn and change. Find the joy, find the happy. As it turns out, it's been there all along, just waiting for me, waiting for us. Bliss for the taking.
Mm, that's so good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's good to remind myself while I'm reading
Yeah,
it.
I was just gonna say, how to stay present.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday there was, a friend's mother visiting, and I was taking her around the house, and it was such a temptation to call out every imperfection in the house. Like, "Oh, and this doesn't work, and this, oh, we gotta fix," just stuff, and I went, Yo, don't do that." Because she's saying, "Oh, I just love the layout and how, you know, you get the sun in here." I mean, she was having her own experience. She didn't need me to lay on top of her
Yeah.
this, the perception that I can get into that things are not perfect enough.
Yep. That makes sense.
And it was I was very proud of myself at the end going, "Okay, I think you only said one
Yeah.
one imperfection."
I like how
So,
you can say, yo."
yeah.
That sounds great. I love that.
Try and talk to myself just so I can get beyond myself in that moment. And as you said, find my bliss, find my happiness, just be in the joy for that moment with somebody else who's having joy, and not take it away from myself.
Yeah, and looking for the good things
Yeah,
instead of
definitely.
focusing on the one negative thing and
I know.
zoning out on everything else.
I know we have you doing a lot of reading, and I so appreciate you just coming along with me on this ride
Yeah,
to share your writing because it was so good. And I
thank
know that there's a section that you write um, about the new window.
okay. Well, this I can tell you where this came from. So,
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, one of the issues that my husband and I got to encounter during our empty nest time was our house. Let's just say that when we were busy, busy parents, we didn't pay too much attention to a lot of things got let go around the house.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So then we got into all of these discussions, which was a lot of fun about should we buy a new house? Should we buy land? Should we build? Should we downsize? Should we upsize? What should we do? Maybe we should just fix up this place. And in the end, what we decided to do was to renovate. And this passage came after the renovation when I felt so much gratitude for all
Mm,
the changes that we had made.
mhm,
So, the two new large windows in our bedroom have even inspired a new idea. Sometimes in the morning, I slip downstairs in my pajamas, brew coffee, grab my work bag, and then tuck myself back into bed. There I sit, propped up on pillows, my mug sitting on what I now refer to as my morning stand. As the clouds part for the sun, I pull my favorite books from my bag to begin my morning with a little inspiration, then move to my laptop to begin my writing. Today's topic are new windows. The ironic thing is that we've lived here for more than 2 decades. This is the house we came home to after we were married. We raised Jeff and Meredith here, and our black Labrador Lizzie, too. We hosted many gatherings here, family, friends, and even my sister's wedding. But it's taken me all this time to see it through a fresh lens. The sculptor Frederick Frank once said, merely looking at the world around us is immensely different from seeing it.
mm,
Point is well taken. Merely looking at the world equates to a drive-by existence in which we're careening at top speed from one task to the next with our heads down, our eyes riveted on the road ahead. There are no detours, no U-turns, and no stops allowed. But when we open our eyes, when we truly open our eyes wide and see, we're opening our minds to a newfound appreciation for all that surrounds us. We're letting gratitude flood in for all the gifts in our lives, for the very gift of our lives. Nothing that comes into our vision can be taken for granted any longer. How many times have my husband Ernie and I wrestled with the decision of whether to move to another town, a bigger house, or a cottage by the sea? How many plans did we consider and reconsider to buy land, to design and build a place we could only imagine? How many dreams and schemes came and went before we finally asked ourselves what mattered most, rolled up our sleeves, and turned the house that had sheltered us for all those years into a home we could love for many more?
mm.
Two new windows have opened a whole new world for us. I call them my grateful windows because everything I'm the most thankful for in my life has been here all along. It just took me a while to see.
It's so great.
Thank you.
We definitely can reinvent ourselves. I think what you're helping us see is that we can reinvent ourselves. We can reinvent our environment. We are not static. And even in the moment when we feel our most grief, our most loss, when we come through that other side of it, there's this whole new place, all new windows to look at.
Yes, it's amazing. You are so right about the reinvention part. You just get up in the morning and you say, this is something I'd like to change, and you have the power to do it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you can just take little steps towards it. They don't have to be enormous. But, I loved what you kind of talked about the process that you and your husband went through. Do we do this? Do we do that or whatever? And I know that I need a little bit of clarity at times, just a strategy of where we could possibly be going because I know that things change all the time. But we were having the same discussion about our house. Like, do we downsize? Like you were saying, do we move? Where would we move to? Well, I don't know. The weather's the best here. And why would we want to go and shovel snow again? It's like, no, we don't want to do that. So, and we netted out that, we got a plan of, okay, we're going to do it this, we'll start making our renovations in 1.5 years. We'll have our plan. We'll figure out what we're going to do. But it was like, it helped in the moment to just have some clarity on where the path might go.
Yes. And I think you can get caught up in the discussion stage, shall we call it? Like
Yeah.
the spreadsheet or the
Hmm.
plan or the pros and cons, however you do it, it just gets like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, definitely.
But then
It,
you your gut intuition.
yeah. But I think you've also pointed to like the empty nest puts the focus back on your relationship
Yes,
because there's no distractions.
right. It was easy to let things go in every which way because you're so busy, and I'm not
Yeah.
saying that that you're being neglectful. It's more
Yeah.
you just can't do everything, so a
Yeah.
lot of things get left by the wayside, but then they all are sitting there staring you in the face when your kids are not. So,
Exactly. Or you're not using the distractions. Um, and you're not, I don't think we intentionally avoid, we might go something like, oh, that's kind of nasty conversation right now. I think I'll wait. I know for me, part of my discovery doing this podcast has been to learn my voice, to articulate my voice, because so much in motherhood or even in my career, I was pleasing everybody else and losing myself along the way. And so to come back and to be able to articulate what Yo thinks, that was like amazing. It was like, and I think our listeners can get that. It's not that we want to lose ourselves. It's just that we have so many distractions going on that we just push it down a little bit more.
yeah, and a lot of times I feel like we're representing our children too, and we
Mhm.
get used to that role, and and now back to me. It's
Right,
and
right.
but it's a hard transition.
Because there we are again.
Yes.
Um, but it's such a neat discovery, right? I think for me, one of the joys of discovering Yo was, oh, she likes to have fun. She's pretty playful. She's a pretty good sense of humor. Um, and, she loves being outdoors. I mean, it was like with or without kids, I knew that these were the things that defined me independent of them.
Yes. And you get more time to enjoy them.
Yes. Yes. And just keep discovering them.
Yes.
Um, hmm, so good. And I love towards the end of the book, you talk about strength. And I'll try not to cry again as you
Okay.
read it. I know I read
I'm
it.
really sorry that you cried.
No, I just my audience knows such a I love authors because you take me to experience something that I'm not experiencing like in my own life at that moment. And by reading what you've experienced, I can connect so deeply.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And the truth is, true confessions here, I cried too when I wrote
This
this
part.
part because this was the end of the
Mhm.
book. And then
Yeah.
when I sat there and I realized at the end of the book that I've been writing for years, and I was writing on a laptop in a Starbucks, and right there in the middle of the cafe, I just totally broke
Oh,
down.
no.
It's
Oh,
like,
no.
you just have reached the end. Of
Yeah.
course, there were many changes and everything that were made, but at that moment of this passage, that was
Yeah. It
where
was
I
done.
was.
Mm.
So this comes at the end at the beginning of this chapter, I take a run and then I decide to go for a longer run. And what I'm going to read from is where I end up after this long run.
Okay.
So, another few minutes, and I'm back to where I began. I made it. I've come full circle. What a silly thought I had been entertaining for these past few years. All this back to me stuff. In some ways, it's true that I'm reclaiming more of my life for me. I've got more freedom now, more time on my hands, more flexibility in my schedule. But when I became pregnant the first time, I changed in a way I could never have foreseen. A good way, a forever way. As my kids grew up, I did too, leaving behind the selfishness and egotism of my younger days. Things I thought I knew, I didn't. Things I thought were important weren't. Things I thought didn't matter were all that did. If I were to take this moment in time to design a life that revolved around me alone, my existence would quickly become as empty as a drum. What I've come to truly appreciate is that my marriage, my children, my family, my friends, my community, these are the gifts in life that mean the most. And I now understand that in a life surrounded by people I love, there's bound to be adversity, the inevitable ups and downs. It would be naive to think otherwise, to believe that somehow my kid's departure would usher in a Valhalla like existence, an endless country club vacation. That would be nice. And hopefully, there will be long, relatively carefree stretches on the road ahead. Believe me, I'm looking forward to them. But what I've come to realize is that stress and hardship and change are invitations to grow, opportunities to rise to the occasion, and learning to embrace love and simple pleasures can bring profound joy to a grateful heart.
Mm.
Who knows how our lives will turn out? Who can say what twist or which turn could be right around the corner? Who can ever know? What I do know right here and right now is that I am moving and I am breathing, remembering the road I've been on and paving a new one as I go along. And I am strong, strong enough for the long run.
Okay. Just need a minute to.
You're okay. You'll be okay. It's good.
I know. Um, oh, you just summed it up so well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I know you poured your heart into that and it was just flowing probably out of you at the moment, but
It was at the end there.
yeah, I'm sure. Well, Reed, I think we need to tell our listeners like where they can get the book because they're going to want to get it and pass it along to friends for sure.
Well, I think the best way to direct them would be to my website, which is ritalussier.com. And there you can find links to my social media and to all the ways you can order. And now back to me.
Terrific. And I guess we've spent time talking about your older self, but what would you tell your 20 something self?
Hmm. Well, I think what I might say is that I say, hey, Reets, enjoy your little kids, your crazy dog, and your busy life. Enjoy every moment. Learn to be grateful for where you are and what you have, and know that your future self, the one in the empty nest, will learn to enjoy that time too.
Mm. Very good. And did you get a chance to go to our online store and pick a card that spoke to you?
That was so nice of you, and I loved looking at your store. You have so many interesting and, I must say, inspiring things
Good.
there. So it was hard to choose, but after a little too much deliberation, I think I would pick, the Embrace the Journey bookmark. Because I
Okay.
thought that would be a good way to remember this fun time I
Oh,
spent with you, and
yeah.
also that is a terrific message.
And I know you love books, so there you go. That's a great one for you.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
well, thank you, Rita, for joining us today and for sharing so much of your heart with us um, and yeah, talking to us about change and resilience and love and grief, all of those great emotions. So thank you.
thank you so much. I enjoyed my time with you.
Mhm. Thank you so much for joining us today. Rita's story is a beautiful reminder that even in seasons of loss and transition, there is room for joy, gratitude, and reinvention. We don't have to have it all figured out. We can take small steps, rewire, and rediscover ourselves along the way. If this conversation spoke to you, I'd love for you to leave a review wherever you're listening. Reviews help more people find the show and remind them that they're not alone in navigating life's changes. And if you know someone who's adjusting to an empty nest, going through transition, or simply in need of encouragement, please share this episode with them. Rita's words may be exactly what they need to hear. You can learn more about Rita's work and her debut book, Now Back to You, by visiting ritalussier.com. And that's Rita, Lussier.com. A few of my favorite quotes from this episode. We mothers have done it before. What begins as a wish, we transform into a life. Find the fun and good and happiness in every moment and embrace it. Two new windows have opened a whole new world for us. I call them my grateful windows. And stress and hardship and change are invitations to grow, opportunities to rise to the occasion. Here are three key takeaways from today's episode. One, the emptiness is about more than kids leaving. It often coincides with other life changes. Two, rewiring after years of caregiving is essential. Self care is not selfish. And three, gratitude and presence can transform even the most ordinary moments into joy. Coming up next week on Girl Take the Lead, we'll be joined by Irma Neal, a seasoned financial coach, leadership expert, and author of the Amazon best-selling book, Leading in Chaos: Insights to Lead Through the Storms. Any of us who've been in those storms will love this book. With decades of experience guiding individuals and organizations through turbulence, Irma shares strategies for navigating uncertainty with resilience, empathy, and a grounding in love and care. It's a conversation you won't want to miss. Until then, take care of your heart, lead with courage, and remember, we got this. Talk to you soon. Bye.